Hear that? Nothing? Me neither. But that's the perfect spot for your company's name to step into the spotlight. Become an underwriter for As You Mic It and let every episode be your curtain call. Slip a note to podcast@pashakespeare.org for more information.
Well, not to go on a detour, but
we totally detoured. Hello and welcome to As You Mic It, the official podcast of Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival. I'm Connie Behringer, associate producer here at PSF. Today, we're beginning our weekly drops of In the Spotlight, where we shine a light on the creative minds shaping our summer theater series. Our 2026 Summer Theater Series is absolutely bursting with artistic energy, so let's get started with our first production of the summer, August Wilson's The Piano Lesson. For the past 3 weeks, our company has been deep in rehearsals, building a production filled with history and memory and music and conflict and humor, and at its very core, family. So joining me today are two amazing artists bringing Wilson's work to our stage. Award-winning actor Akeem Davis returns to PSF following many performances across some of the region's leading theaters, including the Arden, People's Light, Theater Horizon, and Folger. Acclaimed playwright and director James Ijames, whose work has been seen across the country, including his Pulitzer Prize-winning Fat Ham. This summer marks his first collaboration with Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival. Welcome, Akeem and James.
Thank you kindly.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. So before we get too deep into it, you are all going to be opening tomorrow. Mm-hmm. How's that going?
Good. I feel like we're in a really good place. We had a really lovely audience last night, and I learned a lot. I think the cast learned a lot last night from having an audience, and I think we're right where we're supposed to be at this moment. Mm-hmm. You know,
you open, and then you get over the hump of how tired you are to get to this point. Mm-hmm. You come back to full strength, and then you start to see so many things, and the play starts to inform you even more. And you hear a line that you say, and you go, "Oh, that's what I mean." You just keep taking this mounting ball of information into the next show, and it just deepens the work. So we'll open. James knows that it's a compounding effect of one performance feeds into the next, and so it just is going to get fuller and fuller and fuller.
Amazing. How would you explain The Piano Lesson for someone who doesn't know anything about August Wilson, anything about theater, and is just coming to see it for the first time?
Well, I feel like I have to set a table first, because Piano Lesson is a part of a cycle of 10 plays that August Wilson wrote over his life. One detailing the lives of Black people in America for every decade of the 20th century. And this play is the 1930s, which is an electric time in America. We've just gone through a stock market crash. Mm-hmm. We're in the midst of a Great Depression. There's a war brewing in Europe. That's the world in which this play takes place. And into that, August Wilson centers his story around a brother and a sister who are trying to figure out what the legacy of their family is going to be. And they have two very different ideas. The brother, Boy Willie, he wants to take a family heirloom that's very important, a ornately carved piano that his father stole and ultimately lost his life in the pursuit of stealing and obtaining this artifact. Boy Willie, the brother, he wants to sell it so that he can go down and buy the man who owned their family's land. Seems absolutely reasonable. Yeah. I think it's just such a beautiful character element, is that he's like, I'm going to go back and take back this thing that has caused my family so much harm. And then you have his sister, Bernice, on the other side, who lives in the house with the piano every day. She has a relationship to the piano that's very close to her mother's relationship. Mm-hmm. Both her and her mother lost their spouses, as a result of racial violence in the South.
That's right.
And she feels like it's a thing that should just sort of remain a relic, sort of in a museum. Mm-hmm. And the lesson, get that? The lesson.
Got that. I see where you went with that.
The lesson of the play is that they're both wrong. that it's both and neither, that it's something else, that they have to meet the past in order to move into the future. They can't forget, they can't ignore it. And so August is using this story of these two siblings to explore how we build a future based on our legacy.
It's really a story that I think a lot of us can relate to from the perspective of a family, and from a family who has objects in the house and has objects that are meaningful to some in different ways than others. You know, everyone in this play has a very strong point of view when it comes to what they're protecting.
Yes.
You know, and I know Akeem and I have had a little bit of conversation, shall we say, about
back and forth.
A little bit of back and forth in a very loving and kind way. There's nobody who's right in this.
Right.
Yeah. And I think you brought that up beautifully, where you're talking about their understanding of objects evolve.
Yes.
Yeah. But that doesn't stop us from having Team Bernice and Team Boy Willie.
I'm Team Charles's. You know,
That's their
like,
last name.
but that's their last name. Like I came into, so I've done this play for years. I've seen productions, I've seen, you know, film versions of it, and it wasn't until I started working on it that I realized that almost everybody in the play is a sibling with somebody else in the play. You know,
Yeah.
and it's really looking at those relationships, the people you're left with when your parents go, you know.
He dedicated the play to his siblings.
Yeah. And that just sort of was a beautiful sort of reintroduction to the play, is how much it's about that.
What makes something an heirloom and what makes something an asset? There is an evaluation or approximation of value in the consideration of both of those things. This diamond is a family heirloom. We would never dream of selling this for financial gain. It gets to go to the next generation in the family. This diamond is an asset. Why will we, if we're down bad, what game are we playing where we need diamonds?
Yeah.
We need sustenance. We need shelter. You know, you tie into it, which is a conversation that August is, I think, gracefully and generously always having about Black folks, Americans, finding ways to make the best of terrible and terrific events and traumas and histories. He doesn't pander. In the play, the family retrieves the piano on a particular day. What day, James?
July 4th.
July 4th. It's only mentioned once because he doesn't pander. And then the rest of the play, he argues that I literally have the lines, we should mark that day down on the calendar and have a celebration. Invite everybody and make that day special. He's making an argument that we got to acknowledge that July 4th, 1776 didn't include a lot of people. But if we're going to be participants in this experiment, then we got to find our own way into a reason to celebrate July 4th because you got to play the piano. And the piano is not going to come from a perfect place. The piano is going to have blood on it. The piano is going to be stolen. The piano is going to be a reminder of positive and terrible things. But you got to play the piano.
Yeah.
He's doing, I think, in all of his plays, he's doing America a big favor. James and I worked on Jim of the Ocean together. That play is literally about how you manifest strength from your slave ship. Because these things happen to you, but these things also happen for you. And as long as you got breath in your body, you know, what is your positive aim?
Yeah.
How do you find how do you establish and generate self-worth so you can stand up and love yourself, you know? So the play is just, you know, it just gets more and more profound every time I listen to it, every time we do it.
Yeah. You know, you bring up an interesting point when you're talking about heirlooms, objects in the family. When you think about these kinds of objects. Families have a different relationship with it depending on the level of generational wealth they're carrying with them. You know, if you have something, so Boy Willie's coming from the perspective that this piano is an asset and we can use it to better our family in a different way. Whereas Bernice sees this object as something that holds a physical part of her family. This, you can't sell this. It's like, you know, selling off a part of your arm.
It's like selling off a family member.
Yeah, exactly. It has a different vibe for each of them. And so I really do think that a lot of it is about this idea where generational wealth is held not only in monetary value, but in the keeper of the story and the keeper of the legacies. I know when you and I talked about this, you can't say Team Bernice because you brought up a great point. This is, nobody's right, but nobody's wrong either. You know, everybody has a specific opinion that is extremely valid, that is both part of what they feel their needs are and part of what they think is best for their family in the bigger picture, you know?
I also think this, you know, revisiting Wilson, I'm reminded of the value of ambiguity in the theater. That there's, you know, like there isn't a clear villain or hero. You know, they're both having really valid arguments. I think, you know, to Akeem's point, I think August is having a larger argument about America, but they're having an argument about who we're going to be. Who are we? You know, are we people who are primarily driven by money and accumulation and consumption, or are we people who are, you know, trying to be stewards of something, you know, trying to maintain something, which is what heirlooms are. You know, I make the case that heirlooms aren't wealth, right? You know, like if it's emotional, it doesn't do you any good to sell it because then the emotion attached to it is like if it's like a real heirloom.
Right. And then you try and sell it and it's just like someone devalues what your emotion is.
Immensely.
Immensely.
Like you never will get monetarily what it's worth, and emotionally you certainly won't get what it's worth. But I think, you know, one of the distinctions between Bernice and Boy Willie in the play is that she lives with it. So it is an heirloom. It's emotional for her. She's played it. He doesn't really play the piano. Like she has a history and a legacy of embodied relationship with the object. And so it is an heirloom for her because that's how heirlooms work. Their value comes from what you give into them, what you pour into them, what they mean to you, what story is attached to them. That's what makes them heirlooms. Because there's many heirlooms that are in people's lives that are worth nothing. I'm probably going to get like a cast iron skillet or something at some point, and it's going to mean a lot to me. But it's not going to, you know, buy me any land.
No. And I think that's the thing is like, you know, there's something that we can look at that is not valuable from a monetary perspective, but is priceless for us when it comes to the memories that it brings, to the stories that it carries. But that brings up that other interesting point is that when you stop playing that piano and when it just sits there gathering dust,
that's right.
You know, that story and that value dies. You know, that's not there anymore. Because is it going to mean the same for Maritha when she gets older? No, she's going to remember some of that.
And I have to take Boy Willie at his word when he makes the argument that if I were to come up here to Pittsburgh and learned that Bernice had a thriving business as a piano teacher, or if it was involved in some way, then I could get my mind around the function or the use of this thing.
Yeah.
But it has become a kind of monument in this house, and
tombstone,
and a tombstone.
Yeah.
To really speak about the people that August is writing about in 1937. I'm 30 years old. I am a generation and a half removed from slavery, and so these people who were capital now have the potential to access a level of capital that is generational. You know, we did the inflation and the $1,100 or the $1,150 that he stands to make from this transaction is $29,000 in today's money. James brought up the great point in rehearsal that like they also are coming from a completely different outlook on industries. Boy Willie knows how to farm. I went to Monticello once and was surprised at my experience going to this plantation, and braced myself for all of the anger and the rage that I was going to feel, and spent most of the time, I had a good amount of that, but most of the time was just learning about how immaculate these enslaved people were. They were the ones cooking the French food. They were the ones playing the Austrian and German music. They were the ones that understood where to plant what crops and how the seasons played. And they made this place incredible. And I walked away with that legacy. These people are, when Boy Willie talks about being able to farm, he's talking about being a generational descendant of the industry that propped up American wealth.
Yeah.
He wants to go and he's seen how planting cotton works for white people. I can do it for myself, and so, but it's a whole different world in Pittsburgh in 1937. People make money in factories here. People make money in different entrepreneurial ways. Even, Avery coming up here. It is a business decision. It's spiritual. But it is a business decision to become a black pastor in this moment. It means something politically, entrepreneurially, so.
Yeah, it's a center of community, and it is the voice of the community. It's definitely a role of power.
So it's just, everybody, and that's, again, to James's point about the ambiguity of plays, we got to be grateful for valuable questions. When we come up through grade school and even in college, we're told to obliterate questions. As soon as a question is presented, we want to eliminate it. What's the right answer to this question? Well, the best questions in our field are the ones that last the longest. The ones that can spin off multiple answers. That's a great answer to that question. Oh, that's a great answer to that question. Which is the most compelling? Which is the arrow that's going to get to your soul? Yeah. That's, ultimately what you go with. But, and then you got to leave some questions unanswered, because ultimately you're offering these questions to the audience. You don't want to shine a light on everything. You want to leave some mystery for them and let them, you told me, Connie said that she got responses from last night.
Yeah.
And you told me one of the responses was that somebody didn't want to leave because there was so much to talk about.
There was a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about.
Lots to talk about. Well, I have to say, when I read this, I didn't have much
context.
Well, no. You know what it was? I didn't have much of an impression of Boy Willie. I have to be honest with you. I thought that he was short-sighted, and I thought that, okay, he's going to buy this piece of land, and yes, he has experience as a farmer, and he doesn't know what's going to happen to it. I come from a family of farmers, and I know what a hard and unpredictable life that is. Not personally, but just based on what my uncles have told me. And at the same time, when I started watching y'all in rehearsals, and I started watching the interactions between you and the other cast members as far as bringing these characters to life, I was swayed a little bit. Not all the way.
The tiniest bit.
The tiniest bit. I mean, you moved the needle quite a bit. I'm going to tell you that, honestly. It's just, there is this level of honesty and humanity in Boy Willie that doesn't always translate when you're reading it from an uninformed place. You know what I mean? When you're just reading it from a very academic point of view, it doesn't always share that there is so much love and so much humor and so much generosity between the family members, even when they're arguing and even when they're yelling at each other. It comes from a place of love, Akeem, you did find a lot of humor that I didn't see initially in this. Is this something? James, have you always seen the humor in Wilson's writing? Is this something?
All of his plays have humor in them. Funny
folks.
They're very funny people, but I don't know that I realized this one, it was as funny as it
hilarious.
is. And like I was,
You used the word farcical.
there's a structural thread in it that is very similar to farce. Like it ends with like a bunch of people showing up one after another. There's like a lovers in the middle that are like, what am I supposed to do? There's a ghost that shows up. I gotta get out of here. Like it's got the rhythm of Noise is Off, but it's not. Like, you know, there's I think Jordan Peele says the only difference between comedy and horror is the music. And it feels like this play, like if we changed all of the sound and the lights around the end of the play, people would laugh.
Yeah.
It would be absurd. People would think it was really, and it would be effectively funny, you know. If we added sounds of like when, you know, Akeem is fighting Sutter, like boing, ding, like you can, you know, you can move between those forms really easily.
Yeah.
And so I think what I've been trying to do with this production is try to find the balance of where is their life and levity. Like there's this scene I really love. It's the second scene in Act 1. And it's mostly just the men the whole time. And they sing and they talk and it feels like a barber shop. And it's just like so incredibly alive and funny and hilarious. And then it can like just drop into something very real, very poignant, very sad and sometimes. And I think that that's a thing that as a director, as a writer, I really admire about Wilson is his ability to move through tone and move through emotion and take an audience with him. I'm constantly kind of gobsmacked by his ability to do that.
You said something, Connie, that I think is really important, and one of the reasons that I still get excited about doing plays is that it is in the culture of literacy. It is about reading, but it's meant to be three-dimensional.
Yeah.
There are things that you will miss reading a play that you would get hearing it, that you would get seeing it. That's true for Wilson, but it's especially true for Shakespeare. It's why we need these festivals. Our festival, the festival in Oregon, the Folger. Shakespeare did not write plays for people to write essays about them. He did not write plays for them to be preserved in a vault and to be held with gloves, and for people to, again, write dissertations about the reference he was making in it. He wrote plays because we want to understand ourselves. Yes, there is an academic industry that thrives on the thinking about text. But what makes a play different than a novel or a short story is that it is meant to be three-dimensional. You don't even have a chance to unlock all of a play unless you stand it up and do it, you know? And that is why, you know, a Shakespeare festival should thrive. Yeah, we can study Shakespeare. We can read whatever text in 9th grade.
Yeah.
But like, have you seen Romeo and Juliet? Can you imagine how thrilling it must have been to be in front of those, in the previews for Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah.
And like somebody's coming for the third time and bringing their friend, because you got to see this moment where she's waking up and he's already taken the potion.
That's right.
You know,
that moment of horror and realization right there. I think you bring up an interesting point, because James, when you were talking about that first time that you had seen The Piano Lesson, it was the broadcast with Alfre Woodard.
Yeah.
And Charles Dutton, was he in it?
Charles
That's
Dutton
right.
was in it.
Rock Dutton.
Rock Dutton.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this because Akeem, you brought up Romeo and Juliet, and my first experience seeing Romeo and Juliet was as a film. And there's some...
Which one? The Zeffirelli?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my first time seeing Romeo and Juliet too.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But like there is something that changes with the timing and the visual aspect in film versus theater. When I watched Piano Lesson with Alfre Woodard, that was actually my first experience watching it too. And I thought it was beautiful. But there are certain things that when I watched it, I thought, this belongs on a stage. this is not a screenplay necessarily, even though I think it was adapted for film.
Yeah.
And then we see that there is something extremely exciting about live theater that kinds of ignites the text in a way that seeing it on film, it doesn't quite capture that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thrill of theatricality. Our thing is special. A place where transformation happens, a place where argument lives. The dialectic has to be alive and well. James and I were talking yesterday in rehearsal about his work requires a kind of current. It requires a charge. All of us in that room together, including the audience, listening and participating in this conversation that bubbles over. Theater's a special place.
James, did you get a chance to see Akeem and Hamlet last year?
I did not.
Well, this is I think one of the unique things about you specifically, Akeem, is that you do tend to find the funny wherever you land. He stepped in for Claudius last year in Hamlet, and the audience was cracking up. And it got to a point where people were like, well, this Claudius fellow is not so bad. Because, he's fine. And he's terrible. He's terrible.
Well, he's done terrible things.
Yeah. He's done terrible things. And I'm not entirely sure his repentance sticks.
He doesn't.
But so what are we talking about here? Because we need those bad people
to
have plays.
Bad actors.
Like sometimes I get very troubled when people go, I didn't like that character. Why is that character? Because they should be acting up. Yeah. Like no one goes to see a play to see people act as they should.
We
go to see people at the moments of crisis, of consequence. And you don't show up as your best self all the time in those moments, bring it back to Boy Willie. The other thing about what's going on with him is that he's got a clock on how much time he has to get this piano and sell it. Right. He's got a finite amount of time. And that makes me really understand why his urgency is so emphatic and pushy in moments, because he's got to get this done. He's got to sell these watermelons. He's got to sell this piano, and he's got until Friday, essentially. And so that will make him. That's what's exciting about it, is that you go, okay, here's a given circumstance. You have this amount of time to get this done, and this is what's in your way.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And then you see this person do courageous things, awful things, things that they never thought that they would do. But that's. Like, I want an audience to look at that and go, oh, thank God, I don't have to do that because I see what that looks like.
Right.
Instead of, I think a lot of people come to the theater and they want to see a mirror. They want to see people whose moral compass is the same as theirs, whose political bend is exactly the same as theirs, when in fact plays are doors. Go in and see what's in the room.
Absolutely.
And what's in the room might be uncomfortable. That's necessary. That's really important, that there are characters in plays every time you go see a play that make you feel uncomfortable.
I love that.
They must be there.
Yeah.
We were working on 12th Night in 2018.
Here?
Here. Hamlet is funnier than people let it be.
Yeah. That's what I learned last year.
12th Night is sadder than people let it be.
Heartbreaking.
Piano Lesson is funnier than people let it be. That taping of the piano lesson with Rock Dutton and Woodard is absolutely in the blueprint of my development as an actor. But what we get from that is, and Rock was so, when people are incredible at the thing they do, it establishes a trend. Rock was so good at, his name, they called him Rock. He was so good at standing, being powerful, and delivering the thunder of God.
Yeah.
And that becomes the legacy of Boy Willie. My Boy Willie, I think, is much more of a boy and much more fun. And in that way, it might flirt with a little bit of scoundrel. It might, it might flirt with it. He might be our costume designer. She said, "You're too slick." And we understand city slick. Yeah. That's like the big mode of slickness. It's a lot of countrified, slick, backwater cats that, they got a Southern drawl and they got their hand in your pocket, you know. So I try and flirt with a little less stern and a little more loose, a little messier guy. He is a little brother by 5 years, and just being informed by that dynamic, and then you go, oh wow, that moment's funny. Chris Murray as Lyman. I ain't never seen a lineman so charismatic, so funny, so himself. You know, like
amazing.
It's great. So Bernice is funny. Maritha's funny.
Well, you know, I think what you're bringing up is a really good point, because it's like sometimes in other productions, when you see Bernice and when you see Boy Willie arguing, in my brain, it kind of looks like parents arguing, you know, like when you're talking about that voice of God, that power that Dutton brought to the role, it was like a father figure and a mother figure arguing. Whereas when I watch our presentation, it looks like siblings having that very familiar argument about what happens to that object in the house. And I think that really is a really beautiful way to look at this story. You know, it really, because it is a family problem and it is a family argument. And even when everybody else is sort of chiming in and giving their own little 2 bits of information, you know, ultimately everybody's like, well, this is something that Bernice has to figure out. And you have to talk about this with, you two have to work this out amongst yourselves, which is a very much of a thing that you tell siblings to do, not parents, you know. And so I think, you know, it definitely, when you're talking about the different vibe that you're bringing to this role, I think that really, I see where you're going.
You know, we put Doker in terrible positions in this play.
Yeah.
Whining Boy is, I think, because he pops in and pops out, he's much more liberated and like, well, I feel this way and I'm gonna disagree. But Doker seems to have really bonded relationships with both Boy Willie and Bernice, and it is, you know, it's a hard play for Doker because he spends the play saying, no, you're not wrong. But it's actually not about who's right. You all need to figure this out together. I often saw Doker as much more of a sideline character. You know, in other presentations, we see, I think, much older presentations of Boy Willie and Bernice.
Right.
You know, Boy Willie is 30 years old and Bernice is 35 years old. Yeah. They are young enough to still be growing up a little bit, you know.
Well, you know, you brought up something interesting. The two of you sound like you know a lot about each other. I mean, can you tell me, you brought James to this production, right?
Akeem is the reason I'm here. He is the reason
I love that. No, I love that. So y'all know each other from like...
Oh, yeah.
From Philly or just from the way back?
I'm his best man. I spoke at his wedding.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he stood next to me at mine to make sure I didn't faint. You know?
We lived together for how many years?
About 5.
About 5 years.
I was his first tenant. He bought his house. He bought his house because I was paying rent on time.
You know? There you go. That's how you built it.
Yeah.
And we've done how many plays together?
We did Brother Size in 13.
Yeah.
But I don't think we came back to it until Jim.
Jim was the next time.
And then we did Jim of the Ocean, and that was a James and Tom collaboration. They should probably start like a
This is
company.
Tom Weaver?
Yeah. They should start a company.
I always do August Wilson with Tom.
Tom Weaver is also doing our lighting and stage scenery for our production of The Piano Lesson. It's gorgeous, by the way. You guys have a really great shorthand when you communicate about what everything's going to look like, and it really shows. It's going to be beautiful. Then
we did Headley together, and that was James and Tom as well. And now we're doing Piano Lesson, and so it's a nice little journey.
You know each other from friendship first, and then work, or work then friendship?
It's interesting.
Kind of. We're in the theater. It's both. Yeah. Like you. I'm always talking to my students about this. I'm like, theater is a social industry, because you are with people all the time. So you're talking, you're moving between communication styles. So like, I think I met you initially through work, but like you instantly become friends because that's how you meet people.
we had known each other because of the circles of Philadelphia theater, and we both were at the time employed at the National Constitution Center. But really, it was happenstance. Like, Albie went to college.
Yeah.
You needed a roommate. And I was kind of overwhelmed by my first adult apartment. And we talked about what we needed to talk about. We shook hands, and I said, I'll move in on such and such date. And I did that. And then a month later, we started rehearsals for Brother Size. So we kind of got baptized by fire, and then once we got through that first year, it was like, I also think, we became brothers for each other in a way that we both needed. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so that just served us really well.
I love that. And then that is how you learned about PSF, and that's how you joined.
Well, I've always known about PSF.
Oh, okay.
Always known, because I'm friends with like Matt Pfeiffer, who's worked out here a bunch of times. I don't think I've ever auditioned for anything because I used to act like a long time ago.
He used to be a really good
actor.
He is a really good
actor.
Yeah.
He is a really good actor. Whenever he decides to play that piano again, he'll be a good actor then too.
But I've always known, and I don't think but this is my first time actually being out here.
Yeah. So what do you feel like being here now? How are you enjoying your time here? The whole artistic summer camp that we have going on here.
We're in the Schubert Theater, right?
That's right.
That is now one of my favorite spaces I've ever worked in.
It's amazing.
He loves it.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how much I love that space. I love it because it feels incredibly intimate.
Yeah.
But it's got these high ceilings, and so you can. And it's a big thrust.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite kind of
really
staging because it's active. It's always dynamic. People are moving. You're always having to think about where the three sides, what the three sides are getting. So I've really enjoyed that. I think the company itself is really wonderful. I've had a really good experience working out here with everybody. I have to say, your technical team here, I want to give a shout out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because they have done really, really spectacular work. Everyone's been wonderful, but we had some set stuff, and they handled it with so much grace and patience. And Kevin has been really wonderful. It's been great. It's also been shockingly like relaxing, even though it's stressful directing. Like the directing stress is still there. But like when I go to sleep here, it's peaceful. It's quiet. Like it's been really nice.
Got the crickets in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it relaxing enough that you'll actually stick around for opening night?
I have to go. So my niece, speaking of my siblings, my oldest sister's daughter is graduating today from Harvard University with her PhD in art history.
Amazing.
And so I'm meeting her in
It's
New
like
York
for
City.
real.
Yeah. I'm going. I split my time between Philly and New York, and so that is a wild thing I get to say now.
It's the big time truth.
I used to hear people say that and be like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, you own that Amtrak all the time."
Yeah.
But no, I have to go. I have to go up to New York because her and her fiance are coming to spend the weekend with us because I'm missing all the graduation stuff, and so. It's
You're going to call her doctor?
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
In a world where people get called doctor and they're not really doctors, you better call the doctor's doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give James the last word. Why do you think that this feels like the right moment for audiences to experience the piano lesson?
I think it's a play about realization and about changing your mind. I also think it's a play about doing scary things scared.
Yeah.
Like it's filled with these stories of people doing dangerous things. to get free, to get honor, to get dignity. And so, I don't know, I think it's also a little bit about what we're willing to do to be free, and to be our own people. It's also just like a really good play.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always stumped by the question of why now, but the why now is any chance to get people together in a room. But I do think the play is saying something about not forgetting what's happened. I think we have in this country have a very short memory.
Yeah.
Bernice has this moment where she's talking to Boy Willie, and she's like, you're all alike. You know, this thieving and killing, and what does it lead to? More thieving and killing.
Right.
And I think we just haven't, for whatever reason, gotten tired of the thieving and killing. But yeah, maybe the thing that we need is a bit of an exorcism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the play could maybe offer people the perspective that they could let go.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's beautifully said. Thank you, Akeem. Thank you, James, so much for being here.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you, Connie.
Absolutely. So the piano lesson opens on May 29th, and it runs through June 14th. So get your tickets now online at pashakespeare.org or by calling our box office at 610-282-WILL. That is 610-282-9455. And so again, a humongous thanks to James and to Akeem for being here today. And for Jason and Kim and all of us here at Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you at La Buddha.
Thank you for listening to As You Mic It, a Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival presentation recorded on the beautiful campus of DeSales University. Our music is by Cedric Lamar, with hosts Jason King-Jones, Kim Carson, and Connie Behringer. For more information on our summer theater series, giving opportunities, tickets, and more, visit pashakespeare.org. Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you at La Buddha.
Legends, lovers, and timeless drama. It's all happening at PA Shakespeare Festival this summer. Join us for the Legends and Legacy season, celebrating our 35th anniversary. Subscriptions to the 2026 Summer Theater Series are on sale now. Get yours at pashakespeare.org.